And I think the popularity of Andrew Tate right now is basically the answer to toxic feminism. And, you know, if we're going to talk about Tate, I think there's a lot of things that I strongly agree with, and I think he's got the right diagnosis, but I just don't think the prescription that he's given is exactly the right thing.
So why do you think that nowadays men lack purpose?
You know, we're going to have to touch a little bit of politics.
Go for it, man. This is the confidential show. So there we go.
I think, you know, you always have, without making it political, you always have the left people and the right people. And I'm not talking about politics alone. It's just that the left people are always creative, innovative. The right people are always more conservative. And, you know, since the beginning of the world, they're pulling the rope all the time. And you've got all the eras and time frames where certain things happen. And I think nowadays we are going into a direction where, you know, all the feminism and all that other stuff is evolved into such a wrong direction that it has a meaningful impact on how men are perceived, what the role of men is in society. And the problem is because, you know, it's being pushed and pressured onto society. You know, men, I think, are so oppressed right now by the general agenda, by the general narrative, that it's not even the fact that they don't want to fight back. It's just the fact that, like, they don't even care anymore enough, you know, to withstand this whole pressure. I mean, you know, there's this beautiful term these days where they call what we would say a normal way of living. They frame it with toxic masculinity and all that stuff.
Toxic.
And you talk, like, I mean, the amount of people have asked, like, what is toxic masculinity for you? And like, you know, I don't really know. I can't really describe it. It's like this one of them terms that everybody heard about. It's like the Yeti, you know? Yeah. Everybody heard about it, but nobody really knows how he looks, you know?
I think it's just one of these buzzwords that, you know, stick in social media. And there is a lot of, and I think we should also talk about it, even it's kind of, you know, like cliche, which is the Andrew Tate, for example. So because of this, the big impact that this guy had on guys and, you know, young boys mainly, that they needed to somehow find a term and define this so it's easily targetable. And so the toxic masculinity, I think what they mean with it is like a man who's just living his purpose, like you say, but maybe living it a bit too much. And I think this is when it starts to create problems for this part, you know. So why do you think why this term was invented? What's the agenda behind it? And who invented it, in your opinion? So
in my opinion, there's always two radical sides. Yeah. The left and the right, let's call it so for this instance. And then you've got the people in the middle, which perhaps roughly around 10% don't really care what's going on, and the rest is just lost. And then you've got this battle of them left trying to pull some of them to the left, and then the right ones to the right. And, you know, I think Andrew Tate and his popularity is just basically the answer to what I would say feminism getting out of hand. Feminism. Because, you know, deep down when you think about it, I actually think that I'm a feminist myself, you know. When I go back to 100 years ago, I'd say, okay, well, you know, we live in Europe, in a Western society. Women should have rights to vote. Women should have right to, you know, to evolve, to have not the same rights, but very similar rights to what women have, to men, right? But the problem is, once they got there, it's not about rights anymore. It's about privilege now. And now it's toxic feminism, which when you say that, you know, oh, you're misogynist because you don't want women to have the rights. In reality, name one right that you don't have now, which men have, you know? And because this turned into an oppression, and, you know, the problem is as well, if we're going to touch politics, let's touch politics. Obviously, you know, the government needs to govern people. And what is easier to govern than people who are lost? So they're pushing certain narratives onto them. And, you know, and using feminism, you know, all the woke stuff, just to control the masses, just to make them scared, afraid, or pressured into something. And I think the popularity of Andrew Tate right now is basically the answer to toxic feminism. And, you know, if we're going to talk about Tate, I think there's a lot of things that I strongly agree with what he says. And I think he's got the right diagnosis. But I just don't think the prescription that he's given is exactly the right thing, you know, because there's a lot of aggressiveness in the way he approaches those topics, you know, and when you think about it, he says the right things, it gets viral, it gets traffic, you know, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a man now.
Triggered, yeah.
But when you look into like the bottom line of it, there's not many answers really there, you know, because let's face it, you know, how many men really can get to a point where you've got 27 flash cars, you know, in a house that has like, 600 square meters and all that. So,
but we don't know how he got that, like the true story behind it, right?
Exactly. So you know, so I'm a bit, you know, I think he was a good force to open the topic,
and then try to,
and then it was like, you know, like when you think about it, all right, well, this guy is talking good stuff, he isn't really helping anyone. But then at the same time, he's selling his university for like $150 like a month or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then you look at the, you know, at the heritage of it, and you'll be like, well, how did he got to that money? And then you think like, oh, this guy is talking about, you know, being a man and looking after yourself and you know, looking after your body, get in shape, make money, treat women with respect and all that shit. But then you look back, and how did he make his money? Sex scams, right? Is that really the answer to the problem, was that creating the whole havoc, you know what I'm saying? And the problem is him and the other side, they're creating this narrative where men are like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here, really?
Exactly. Actually, that was my next question I wanted to know. So if we take a man who's lost today, he's not happy, he's depressed, he has a lot of problems, he cannot get the girls he wants. And he sees these people flashing on social media, and we know it's all fake and everything. And then you come to the picture, and so what would you say to this man? What would be your first initiation, let's say, advice?
So look, Instagram destroyed women. Pornography destroyed men. This is the reality we live in now, right? There's this sentence that I really like. Who hurt you the most in life? My own expectations. And if you think about how deep this is, and you basically answered it yourself. You look into social media, into the people who you want to follow, and it is all fake, you know? And there was a minute I thought, you know, this might be real. People are maybe really making this money. But then you're like, that's not really their car. That's a fucking car they're renting. That's not really a real watch. That's a fake, probably. They go there for 2K to Dubai for a day, record in 5 different suits, and they're like, oh, I'm the king of Dubai now there, you know? And the thing is, what I would say is just stop scrolling social media, mate, because that's not going to help you. You can watch 100 reels from Andrew Tate, and this is not going to change anything. You're just going to become more depressed. Because when you try to base your evolution and your happiness on expectations, you're not going to go anywhere, really. So, you know, look around you. Look on the set of things that you have in hand. Find something that you're good at. Or start the search, basically. You know. Remove everything what causes negative energy or toxic energy out of your life. Whether it be your girlfriend, your woman, your mother, your friends, your boss. If you hate your job, leave your job. Find something else. Because if you're going to stay in a negative environment, nothing's ever going to change. No matter how much more money you make, no matter the car you get, if you have negative energy around you that drags you down into it, nothing's ever going to change, you know. And people are so afraid of this step back. That's the problem. Because, you know this as well. If you want to take a leap to the front, sometimes you have to take 3 steps back just to reset and look at those things. And, you know, we've been sold this American dream, let's call it, where you're going to finish school, you're going to finish university, you're going to go get a nice 9-to-5 job. By 30, you're going to get your first flat by becoming a slave to your bank for 35 years, which is never going to be yours anyway. And then you're like, oh, that's the life I want to live, right? And then by 40, you look at your wife, you don't really like her. No, true, it's true, man. No, you don't really like you. You don't really know your kids. Okay. You don't really have good friends, and you're like, fucking, I wasted my life. And that's around the time, around 40, where people realize, I fucked up. I've done something wrong. And the unsent prescription, that bugs me as well, isn't fuck your job, go try to be, I don't know, a drug dealer or something. That's not the prescription. That's like, let's just see what makes you happy, man. Let's just see what can you remove that creates negative energy.
Oh, interesting.
And with what can it be replaced that just makes you feel calm and happy. So you know as well as I do, man. You can have money, you can have all that, you can have women, cars and all that stuff. If you are not at peace when you're alone, you're never going to be happy. Because people mistake happiness with peace a lot of the time.
True.
Because of social media. Because they think, I'm going to be on a yacht. That's going to make me happy. Bro, if you're suffering, you're not going to be happy in a Lambo, in a yacht, on a private jet. That's not the way. And I think this is the mission I'm trying to show people, that, you know, it's not about that part of it. That is the result of it. If you apply the right habits, if you apply the right routine, and if you apply the right mindset. Because if you can't become happy where you are now, what makes you think that you're going to be happy down the line if you can't appreciate those things around you? You know?
But this is very hard to explain to a man who really want to change things, because we know that you will tell him, okay, listen, no more social media, but yet he will somehow find a way, and he will end up always in social media, right? And he will... You can't explain, because it's a funny thing, we always say, you know, being broke and poor, it's better to cry in my Ferrari, right? But still, it's nice to cry in a Ferrari, right? So how to fight that thought? What I'm trying to get here is, what is the action plan? Because I've spent probably my half of career working with men and women. And I don't want to say I've done it all, but I know the spectrum. But I kind of stopped this last 4 or 5 years. So I'm trying to understand and see, and especially we're going to talk about it, especially because we're in Poland. I want to talk about the situation of men in Poland here. It's very... I want to get it, you know, from the source, from you, because I think you have a lot of experience in that. And because I had a guest last season 1, Magda, and she mentioned Polish men, and she said, Polish men do not approach me in the street because they look not interested. What do you have to say about that? And do you have an explanation for it?
I have. But
it's, hear it.
But it's actually not just men, really, to be fair. I mean, Poland is a very specific country, which I think can have a really bright future in the current circumstances for the next 10, 15 years because of the geopolitical location, because of how the people are. But people need to change their mind. And the problem is, you know, why do we get on? Why do you get on with a Polish person? Because I smile, because I'm approachable, because I like you, because we talk nice things. But that's not what Polish people do. And I wasn't like that before I went to UK either. I was this, you know, not sad, but this angry guy who, well, I don't like anyone, you know, I don't need anyone. And the reality of it is, everybody in this country is angry about something, about politics, about the neighbor, about the car they're driving, about the wife, etc., etc. I'm not talking about everyone, but you know, the vast majority of it. And you know, if you're angry, if you can't have this peace that I'm talking about, how are you supposed to smile at anyone? You know, even the person in the Żabka, right? She when she's pouring your coffee, you're like, I don't know, that's going to be a coffee with hate, with a lot of hate. Like, you know what I mean? It's still pour right through me. And this obviously has a lot to do with money, you know, and with how people are, you know, with how people are being paid in Poland, etc. And there's a lot of, I mean, it's still much better than it was 10, 15 years ago. But still, once you create this havoc and once you fall into this line of thoughts where I'm never going to make it, I'm always going to be angry because I'm never going to have enough money, etc., etc. It's so difficult to leave that frame. And, you know, once you adopted this way of thinking, and once you are like, okay, I ain't going to make money, I probably ain't going to ever get a six-pack, I'm probably not really going to be dressing too well because I buy my stuff in, you know, wherever, right? And that's not even that I can't afford it, but like nobody ever showed me how to dress in a nice way, you know? And once you adopt this frame of thinking and then you see like a good-looking woman, which Polish women are, undeniably.
I confirm.
Wouldn't surprise me. You know, and then you see this woman which, you know, looks after herself, probably is having a career or something, and it's just, you know, good looking.
Yeah.
And then you're like well, someone is never going to give me any attention because I'm this and that and that. And instead of, you know, well, okay, let's change this and this and that, I'm just gonna ignore her, never talk to her, and then just downgrade my expectation, downgrade my choice, and dig myself into this hole, which you just dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and suddenly you can't even climb up, and you stay there, and you end up with this monster at 40. I'm joking, obviously, you know?